Hi everyone, Tim here. So one of the neat things about the internet is you run into different people and this leads to different conversations. So there was a question that was put on Jesse Enkamp's site about Wan Su. So I posted a Wan Su video and I saw someone else who had posted a Wan Su video from the Kenshin-kan organization. So she and I began talking because I was part of the Kenshin-kan organization in the 1980s. And then recently I saw that she was practicing Pinan Shodan, and it was an interesting conversation because it was a little different from the way that I had first learned it. And so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about Pinan Shodan and some of the different variations that I've had some contact with and why I think the variations are there. So just for background, I first learned Pinan Shodan from a student of Arakaki Seiki Sensei, which was Matsumura Shorin-ryu, but they did it a little bit different from Kisei Sensei's organization, the Kenshin-kan. I then learned the Kenshin-kan version with Tom O'Brien from Kisei Sensei in the 1988 to 1989 when I was at Camp Courtney. I then went on to learn some of the variations that Chiyodo Sensei used, and later Funakoshi Shorin-ryu version under Akimine Sensei and Akimine Hiroshi Sensei. And now, most recently, I'm doing it Okinawa Shorin-ryu Mukenkai under Akimine Hiroshi Sensei, the way that he learned it from Gushken Sensei. So they're almost all the same DNA. You can see that the katas are achieving some of the same things, but there are some minor differences, and this is kind of what I want to talk about. So to begin with, when people turn and come up this way, some people don't use a neko ashidachi, some people use a neko ashidachi, some people use a uki ashidachi, some people use a kokutsudachi. So what this is doing is changing the weight distribution, right? What we did when we wanted to come up into the neko ashidachi was to prepare an option for this hip to move down, right? Now some schools use that on this block here. Some schools use it on the punch, which is what we do. So this movement up here, whether your weight is distributed, whether it's coming out here, kind of changes how you're thinking about doing it. So if I can borrow you, Esther, if you'll come over here, right? On that first movement, I'm gonna have you grab my arm, right? So when I'm here, up this way, if you grab my arm, right? And I'm trying to knock your hand off, if I do this where I drop my weight down, it's a little bit easier, okay? So that's one of the purposes for this coming down here. This coming down here, there. Also, some schools will bring their hand in this way as a way to break away from it. So some different thinking on that. The initial setup and why this moves. I know she's a lot smaller than me, but she's the biggest partner I've got to work with right here. If you come around me and try to do a bear hug, right? I want to stop her from getting her hands together. If I shift my weight, raise this hand up, and bring this hand here, now I have her in a position that when I bring this hand down, in Aikido we call this a sankajo or sankyo lock. That works quite nicely. So that's another reason why we want to shift her weight here. If you grab, and go ahead and clasp your hands together, this becomes a problem, even though I'm a lot bigger than her, right? I can get through. So what I want to do is I want to keep this hand from reaching that hand. And I do that by moving my body in. And then when it comes in here, it creates a comparative advantage, okay? Another part in the kata that are a bit different. Some come around behind, and I'll do it from this position so you can see what my hand is doing here, right? And then do a front kick, and then do this way. I know that Kisei Sensei's group would come down here with a reinforced knuckle strike, and then do that here. So, Esther, if you were going to try to kick me, and I come down here and I knock down here, do you want to try to kick me with your leg now? No. Right, so that's what that tends to be for. This one here tends to be a block, and then a counterattack, and then moving here. In Funakoshi Shorin-ryu, after here, and then there, here, and then there, we would stack, and it would be a Yoko Giri, which sets up nicely to learn Kusanku, which is one of the higher level katas. The older way of doing it tends almost always to be a Maigiri. And then here, whether it's in a neko ashidachi or back into a kokutsudachi is symbolic of the different types of thinking around kata. So the Shotokan guys tend to do this out of a kokutsudachi, and they're long with their shituke. Shodan-ryu tends to be a little bit higher up, using this kind of a technique. Then at the end, there's two variations. One is pushing down and spearing here. There's actually a few. Some push with a flat hand, some turn with the hand, some grip and come here. Some pull it back here. So the different advantages there, right? So if you try to punch me, and I break down and go here, that's one. Again, if you come here and I roll it, I get a little bit more. And then the third, if I pull this back while I spear out, that's another variation on what they do and how people think about it. Now, after that, it's important that this comes and touches in here. And the reason for that, Esther, if you grab, so if I try to spear finger her, and go ahead and grab with both hands, and I try to make a turn, and my hand is away from my body, I'm a lot bigger, so I can actually get away with this. But if she were the same size, I might not be able to. But if I take this hand and I roll it, touch against here, and then rake off, then that creates a little bit extra leverage in it. So important to make sure this touches when you come around. Then almost everybody does this same angle. Here's where there's another variation. So imagine if I was just there. Some schools come across this way. Some schools come back this way. Both of them are doing a similar type rotation through the hip here. With the kosudachi, it's a little bit close range. So I can get my leg out quite easily that way. So when I come back this way, this is short range, and I'm able to get my kicks off in a shorter distance. Where schools tend to use this one, they tend to think about the fight happening at a broader distance. Both are good variations, but that's one of the differences. And then finally, this here, okay? So what I envision this for, again, what most people look at this is some sort of a heavy kick coming in. You have a bum knee, so you probably won't be able to kick. Cora, how do you feel about throwing a kick right now? So let me borrow you, Cora. So I'll have you stand here, right, and then come around this side. So use your left leg round kick, okay? So when you come in, kick, and I come and jam it again. Again, okay, so that could happen, right? I don't know how likely that is, but definitely that could work. What I tend to see this is, and let's have you stand right there, and left foot forward, right foot back. I'm going to have you come in and do a punch. So I see this as blocking here, coming underneath, and careful behind you. When I extend through, it then catches under the arm. So again, we'll give you a little bit more space. So I've just done this, right? Now you don't step forward to do your step punch. So I come in this way, and I'm closing the distance, and I drive my center. Could you avoid that? So it's difficult because this is on target here, and when I move that there, there's a fair amount of her shoulder and lats in here. When I come underneath and I submarine underneath and I bring this up, it causes her weight to float and then comes out this way. One other interesting thing is I make contact with these two knuckles here, down here, right? Let me have you do this. And go into a deep front stance, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to push this flat. So now she's like this, right? When I come around here and I push on this, it collapses, okay? Let's turn this way so that they can see what's going on. And go ahead and go into a front Zenkutsudachi, right? Move your front foot forward. Back foot's fine, leave your back foot where it is, move your front foot forward. Your back foot's fine, leave it where it is, move your front foot, there you go. Right, now, when this is flat, it's not as stable. If you instead just touch these two fingers, is that stronger? So there's a line of support that goes here through the smaller bones and the smaller metatarpals when it's connected there. Whereas if it's flat this way, it tends to create a bend in the wrist, which destabilizes that position. So that was one of the things. Ladies, I'll have you line up here. We'll bow out all together. If you got it this far, thanks for watching. I post these usually a couple of videos a week covering some thoughts that cross my head on karate kobudo. So hopefully it's of some use to you, and if it is, come on back and take a look at what I post next week.